loves, my name is Jessica Diamond and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. This was not the video I was planning to do today, but because of so much of the drama that's going on and my personal opinions, I wanted to do this video as soon as possible. As you can see the title below, this is all about the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette. I literally got this palette and then I had to leave to go to San Francisco for Gen Beauty, so kind of like a trip, and I only have used this palette 2 or 3 times with the same shades before. And when there was so much talk about Roxy and how people were already hitting pan on it and other shadows and how they'd swirl it around and all the powder would pick up, well, okay, I don't swirl my brush around in pans like some people do. I press, sometimes I swirl, but not really. When I saw people saying this about Roxy, I'm like, I'm not having that problem. This shade, I actually really love this shade. It's probably my favorite shade in the palette. And then when I got home, I did a quick catch up. I haven't really watched any people's videos. I've gone through Alyssa's Ashley's video. I believe that's her name. And I understand where people are coming from. I've heard from Sparkage and Temptalia and just all this drama going on. So I'm kind of like, well, my palette isn't doing that. There are a whole bunch of like bad reviews. And first off, disclaimer, I'm completely honest. I have nothing to gain from doing a positive review on this palette or any other palette or products that I might say in a video. I have nothing to gain. Nothing, I promise you. This video is going to be about my quick breakdown, well, sort of break down this palette, my review, a tutorial, sort of, and swatches, and my final thoughts. So, I hope you keep on watching. Now, let's just start. This is Subculture. This is a beautiful palette. I'm going to be honest. When this was leaked online, the images, I wasn't going to get it. I'm like, those are not my shades. I do not work well with blues and greens. They're too dark for me. They're out of my comfort zone. But lately, I've reached this point in my life and my makeup life is to just freaking experiment and have fun and step out of the box. Push yourself out of the box with doing different kinds of makeup looks because you're staying home right now and there's nothing to lose or gain from just messing around with makeup. So I went ahead and got it because the more swatches and the more I saw this palette, the more I did really fall in love with shades like Roxy and New Wave and Edge and Adorn. Let's just get to the big elephant in the room. There have been so many videos of people swirling their brushes in a shade and already hitting pan like on Roxy and just having it sit everywhere. Now, I'm not a total professional or anything. I might use makeup a little bit differently than other people, but that doesn't mean that I'm doing it wrong. When I put my brush in here, I get a little bit kickback from it, but not as bad as other people. Now, this is made with talc. Talc is associated with baby powder, so it's very powdery. However, so are Natasha Denona shadows. I believe one of the first ingredients is talc in the Natasha Denona and Morphe and probably every other palette that doesn't have this much powder and kickbacks. Let's do the test. Maybe you've seen this on my Instagram story. I did this last night, so make sure to follow me on Instagram at Jessica's Fairy Tale. And I'm going to do a kind of a quick comparison between Subculture and Modern Renaissance so you kind of see my mind frame is that I don't think I have a bad palette. There you go. There's definite powder. I very gently put the brush in there. All that powderiness. No pan, but I'm not going to keep doing it a couple times. Rowdy, I feel like, is my worst one I have in this palette. So as you can see, I hope that when I do this very lightly, there is kickback, but I don't think it's that bad. I'm not going to bash anyone. I want to believe that everyone is honest in their own experiences with this palette and everything. Modern Renaissance, though, this is when I feel like it's kind of something is off or being kind of blown out of proportion with how much powder it's being kicked up. Because I feel like you do this like a few times. To me, there's the same amount of kickback and powder in the Modern Renaissance compared to Subculture. So that I'm just specifically going after mattes because the mattes are the ones with the most problems. Like, look, there's a lot of powder that's being kicked back in Modern Renaissance, and everyone loves that palette. I love that palette, and that's how I'm kind of feeling right now. That's how I kind of feel like I didn't get a dud. I do believe, after hearing X Sparkage and Temptalia's comparisons, that there were a few bad batches that got through. My batch number is P7F21. P7F21. These will be in stores, Sephora, August 15th, I believe, for $42, unless the brand will pull them from Sephora. I don't think they're going to pull them. They're sold out of their website right now, and Norvina claimed or said that they're going to try and investigate this, but they're really only going to press the eyeshadows harder. I don't think that's going to work simply because of the formula. And like my little experience with this palette, I actually do like this palette. Even though it's powdery, it's still really, really hecka pigmented, and I would just really advise, do not swirl your brushes into this palette. Like, don't do it, because you're going to get so much powder kicked up. You're going to get so much on your brush, you're going to put it on your eye, and then you're going to have too much to blend out. Blending. Rowdy and Axis and maybe a little bit of Fudge is a little bit harder to blend. Fudge for me is not impossible to blend. When you go over your eyeshadow, like, gently just pat it in like twice, and look how much pigment you get off of that brush by just patting it in. We'll go to the other side with Untamed. You press it once and you get pigment off of the brush, so you do not need to swirl your brush in. And I feel like that is where a lot of the drama is going, is because brushes were swirled. Now, I want to also point out Natasha Denona blush. I love this stuff so much. If you swirl your brush in it, look how much powder you're gonna get in the pan and kicked up, but it's hecka pigmented. So I feel like we're so used to shadows being so powdery and kicking up, and there's not a whole lot of pigment, and I feel like because these are so powdery and kicking up and there's a lot of pigment, I feel like it's a learning curve that people are not used to. Again, I know experienced makeup artists is way more experienced than I am. I've had problems with these palettes, but again, I think it's a bad batch, and I'm just going to jump right on into my tutorial and my swatches and my last thoughts. Overall, I do like this palette, and I'm not throwing shade to anyone or anything. I'm not saying that other people have been dishonest, and I am not dishonest. Look at my subscribe count. I have nothing to gain by putting a positive review out into the world, except for getting backlash just because of my honesty, and then I've had a positive experience using this palette. So please, please be kind in the comments below and with the like and dislike button. Do not think that I'm trying to make it okay that what Norvina and ABH and just everyone, there's no shade. I'm just being honest, because that was my first thought of when I was hearing so much crap about this palette. I was like, well, I don't think I'm experienced that with my palette. So here is my honest tutorial, my honest swatches. I'm going to stop throwing around the word honest, but please keep on watching for the tutorial. I hope this video will be helpful. And again, I'm not going to say, and I'm not going to tell you to go out and buy this palette, because I'm not recommending this palette. I'm not approving this palette. I'm just saying that the palette I have and from the batch I have works for me. One thing I did, the packaging is beautiful. And one thing I did want to say is that, yeah, my Modern Renaissance has gotten dirty, and other people are like, oh, it's darker, it's not going to get dirty. I've had shadow smudges here, and because it's darker, there's going to be like more shadow and more clinginess because it's a darker color. Just saying that. Okay. So first up we have Cube, which is described as a duochrome pink pearl. And honestly, the swatches of this and probably both of the Transformer shades, they're not that great swatched at all. So there's 2 passes. Let's go in with the brush. Go next to it once. As you can see, there's no payoff, and this doesn't apply that great to the eye. Dawn, which is described as an ultra matte sand. Like you see, there's a slight color difference between Dawn for finger and brush swatch. Next, I'm taking Destiny, which is described as an ultra matte sage green. And the brush swatch there, as you can see, is not all that great. Next, I'm taking Adorn, described as metallic bronze. You really have to lightly press your finger in this, otherwise it's going to get everywhere, kind of like the Natasha Denona shimmer shades. Okay, we're going to go into that once more. Again, I'm just patting my brush in there. Yeah, that's not all that great. All-Star, described as ultra matte vintage wine. In my defense, for the brush swatches, I am using my left hand and I'm a righties. Next up, we have Mercury, described ultra matte slate gray, and that's not too bad. Next, we have Access, described ultra matte blue green. As you can see, there's so much fallout with Access. It just got all over my sheet. Roxy, described ultra matte muted coral. I think so far this is actually my favorite shade in the palette. Next up, we have Electric, described duochrome lime gold. Yeah, I feel like the duochromes just suck in this, which is very surprising considering they have hits like Moonchild and Aurora. Yeah, there's no brush payoff with the duochromes at all. Fudge, described ultra matte warm bronze. Now this is a permanent shade. It has its own single. Next up, we have New Wave, described ultra matte citron orange. Untamed, described as ultra matte tarnished green. That's patchy when you swatch it with a brush. Edge, described as ultra matte gold mustard. And here's the brush. Alright, and then the last one, finally, is Rowdy, described as ultra matte blackened purple, which this is the most powdery in my palette. There are your swatches. Again, no primer, no anything. For the brush swatches, I just barely press it into the pan. I didn't swirl it around or anything. So there you go. There are my awkward swatches. Did the brows, primed my eyes, leaving the rest of my face blank because of the amount of fallout I've heard this palette has, although personally I kind of expected that because of these type of colors and the pigmentation they have. If you're having trouble using this palette just by coming up with a look from it or colors that go, think of these as quads. So this is a quad, that's a quad, that's a quad, that's a quad, that's a quad, and that is a quad, or you can go by duos straight down. Brush, I'm going to use Dawn as a transition shade just because I feel like that's the only transition shade that, or shade that works as a transition from this palette. I'm going to go in here. I'm not going to really swirl because I'm sure you've seen the videos of when people swirl their brushes in. I've used Fudge and Roxy in the past, so I want to try and stay away from those because I just want to play with the others. So I'm going to actually take Fudge, which I have been doing, and just lightly go in and then focus it on the outer corner. Now I want to say I feel like people are having a hard time blending this out because like I barely put in this. Look how much pigment is there. I'm going to wipe my brush off just to make sure all the pigment and the excess is gone. And honestly, I mean, I'm not like a professional or might not do eyeshadow correctly or anything like that, but I honestly haven't really had a hard time, so I really believe it's a batch problem. Maybe it's just me, but I don't feel like I'm having that hard of a time blending out. I do think Fudge and darker colors for me in general are harder to blend out to begin with. I'm gonna go in with Adorn and just go for straight all over the lid. I just very lightly press it in there. And Adorn is definitely, I swatched it last night and it definitely felt like it has more of a wet texture to it. So actually using this shade, try using it with your finger like you would for Natasha's shadows. I'm going to take New Wave because honestly that shade kind of made me buy this palette, and very, very lightly try and add it in my crease. I feel like this will help warm up Adorn a little more, help bring out the golden yellow flecks that are in that shade. Modern Renaissance, and take Tempera to put it underneath my brow bone because I just need like my kind of white or shimmery shade just to kind of help pull this look together. You know what? I'm going to take Rowdy because it's like a deep purple color, and I feel like that will complement New Wave and Adorn because of those mustardy and yellow tones those shades have. Okay, right now this Rowdy's kind of the most powdery one I think I have in this. Alright. And I'm going to smudge this underneath. Having some fun, we take what we want. There's so many ways to be wicked. Don't comment on my bad singing because I know my voice sucks, but you can still sing when you suck. I'm just going to lighten up just a little bit, but I also can feel like I have raccoon eyes because I don't have mascara on currently or the rest of my makeup. I'm just taking a clean, not the clean brush, but the one I used with Tempera on it and the transition shade, just kind of going under it. I use CoverGirl Total Tease. I got this for free from my Gen Beauty attendance bag. I used it yesterday. This is a mascara I would have never bought on my own, but I think I like it right now.
We want the one, or else the king is gone. Your time is running out. You should really watch your mouth.
Go with Cube in here to add to my inner corners. To light a fuse, smell, whatever you do, it's gonna be a lose-lose. There's gotta be a better way. Uma, I promise, you give me your chance, you have your say. Silly king, you give me, yeah, you're gonna give me a chance. Well, not a chance. I feel like I'm just so disappointed, like, with Cube, because, like, Anastasia has like Moonchild and Aurora, mostly Moonchild. There's a shade that reminds me of, that Cube reminds me of from Moonchild, and that is really good. And this I'm just so like disappointed with as a highlighter, but I bet this would be good as a topper. But since they have Moonchild, I just feel like I expected more from Cube, if that makes any sense. I do want to add Access, but is that going too far? Okay, I'm going to just add just a little bit of Access. Oh my god, that was so much, guys. I don't know if that's being picked up at all. Alright, so I'm back with the whole face on and everything, and swatches that you would have already seen earlier in this video. So overall, I'm not mad at this palette. I totally agree with what people are saying for those who have had bad palettes. Some fallout, but I didn't experience it with Roxy or most of the shades. I mostly experienced fallout and patchiness with Rowdy. And when I swatched it, Access and Untamed were the patchy ones when I swatched, as you can see. Overall, I don't think I had that many problems with this palette. Untamed, Access, and Rowdy are by far the patchiest when you swatch it on your arms. And Access and Rowdy, honestly, those were kind of hard to really try to even out underneath my lower lashes. By far, Cube is, I hate the shade. I hate it so much, and I feel like Electric is right up there. They don't perform with a brush at all. For the inner corner for Cube, I used a very flat, dense, sort of stiff shadow brush made for the inner corner. That usually works great with every single shadow I, put that brush in. but Cube is very disappointed, and I'm sure Electric is going to be the same amount of disappointment. I heard they're great on top of Axis and Rowdy. So think of those as Transformer shades. But again, there's Moonchild and Aurora that, especially Moonchild to me, is more of like a Transformer shade type palette with their duochromes that they did so good. And these just are not up to that status. I don't know, those are kind of my last minute thoughts. I don't hate this palette. You can believe, I'm saying everyone, I'm pretty sure, has been honest by saying it was bad. But I just feel like with one bad review, who was kind of a big-ish name on YouTube, who's known for her honesty, with this one bad review, I feel like everyone has just blown this out of proportion. And I do feel like it's powdery, yes, but these shades are hella pigmented when you swatch them, and even when you swatch them with a brush, most of them are very pigmented and somewhat smooth when it's just swatched with a brush to your arm. On the lid itself, the eye itself, Axis and Rowdy were my most ones I had the most trouble with. The other ones like Roxy, Dawn, and Fudge, and New Wave, I haven't had a problem with using on the lid. So that's just my 2 cents. I hope that helped you guys out. I wouldn't be so fast to follow everyone's opinions and experience with this palette. Really get it at your own risk. Play around with it. Try using natural hair brushes. Do not swirl the brush in the pan, because you're just going to get a lot more. Just press the brush in. Do not swirl it around. Not even twice, especially not 3 or 5 times. And always hit off the access like so many times. And those are my tips and my honest opinion. So let me know if this helped you below, or if you're going to take this chance on the palette, or if you're going to wait until ABH has redone their palettes and relaunched them. Again, this is permanent. I just think maybe they'll try and press the shades. I don't know if they're going to try to reformulate them. So if this video was helpful or useful, please give it a thumbs up. And I know a lot of you who are watching this are probably not subscribed, so please subscribe for more videos like this, more honesty, unbiasedness, because I have nothing to gain from doing these videos. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to love others, but first and foremost, always love yourself, because you're beautiful no matter what anyone else says. Bye!